In today's video, we will learn how to stitch a Nehru jacket from scratch. Nehru jackets or Bandh galas have become synonymous with formal dressing and celebrity culture. Its versatility and fit have made it an instant hit in not just India, but also globally. So if you're keen to know how to stitch one, this video is for you. We'll be learning template marking and fabric cutting. Readying and attaching the pocket. Joining the front and back pieces. Preparing the lining fabric. Attaching the lining fabric to the main fabric. And lastly, preparing and attaching the collar. This is what you will need. 2 meters of printed fabric with a width of 45 inches. 2 meters of lining fabric with a width of 45 inches. 1/4 meter canvas fusing. 2 meters of jacket fusing. Template for the Nehru jacket, which you can download from our website www.ushasew.com. Beaded pins, chalk, scissors, hand needle, and matching thread. Step 1. Template marking and fabric cutting. Take any fabric of your choice. Open the fabric completely and lay it wrong side facing up. We have fused the material with jacket fusing to save time. Time to place the templates downloaded from www.ushasew.com on the fabric. Let's start with the templates marked front. Place them on the fabric. Use some beaded pins to pin these 2 templates in place. This is an important step as it secures the template to the fabric and makes it easier to trace. After you are done, use a piece of chalk and trace the templates on the fabric. Be extra careful on the curved edges as this can make or break our pattern. Next, unpin the templates. Ensure that you put the beaded pins back into the pin cushion to avoid any injuries. After unpinning, keep the templates aside. Grab a pair of scissors and let's start cutting the pieces out. Do this slowly and precisely. Once you are done with the cutting, keep the front pieces aside. Now, on the remaining cloth, place the second set of front templates, both left and right. Pin these templates in place as well with some beaded pins. Start with the front main right and make your way to the other piece. After pinning, use a piece of chalk to trace the templates on the fabric. Mind the curved edges while tracing. Once you are done, keep the chalk aside and unpin the templates from the fabric. Take a pair of scissors and cut along the traced lines. The smallest pieces are the hardest to cut. Ensure that you cut out the templates carefully. Keep the cut pieces aside. Now with the remaining fabric, fold it like shown in the video and place the back template over it. Notice that one side of the template says unfold. Ensure that you place that side over the fabric fold. Use some beaded pins to pin the template on the fabric. And while pinning, ensure that the pins go through both layers of the fabric. After you are done, trace the template onto the fabric with a piece of chalk. Go slow and be precise during the step. Then unpin the template and keep it aside. Grab a pair of scissors to cut out the traced template. Slowly and steadily cut the back piece out. Keep the cut piece aside. Now fold the remaining cloth once again and place the collar template with seam allowance onto it. Pin it in place at both ends. And use a piece of chalk to trace it onto the fabric. The curved edges can be a bit tricky, but practice makes perfect. Next, unpin the template and keep it aside. However, we will once again pin the fabric to hold it in place while cutting, as it's important to have a consistent shape for both the collar pieces. Now we will cut the pieces out using a pair of scissors. After you are done cutting, keep the pieces aside. Don't throw away the leftover material just yet. Place the jacket pocket template over it and pin it in place. Trace the template using chalk. Then unpin the template and keep it aside. Cut the piece out. Just to recap, we've cut two main left and right pieces, followed by the second front pieces, two collar pieces, and a pocket. We also have the back piece ready. Now let's take the lining fabric and open it completely. This will be the wrong side, and this is the right side. On the wrong side, place the templates marked as front lining left and right, followed by the jacket pocket template. We will repeat the same process as before. Pin these templates to the fabric with some beaded pins. Pin the entire template, as this will ensure that the cloth stays steady while tracing. After you are done, carefully trace the template onto the fabric. Start with the front lining, left template, and make your way towards the other templates. Make sure to have a steady hand while tracing around the curved edges. Post-tracing, unpin the template and keep it aside. Now cut along the traced lines. Do this step slowly and steadily, as it's important to get the shape and measurements right. After you are done cutting the three pieces, flip the cloth around with the right side facing you and fold it like shown in the video. Place the back template on the folded side. Ensure that you place the side that says "On Fold" correctly over the fabric fold. Proceed to then pin the template in place with some beaded pins. Then use a piece of chalk to trace the template. Once the tracing is complete, like before, unpin the template and keep it aside. You can repin the fabric for some extra stability while cutting. Then use a pair of scissors and cut along the traced lines. To recap, out of the lining fabric, we've cut front right, front left, back, and jacket pocket pieces. Keep these pieces aside. Next, take the fusing fabric and fold it in half. Place the template marked collar over the fabric and trace it. After you are done, use a pair of scissors to cut the piece out. Voila! We are done with step 1. Step 2. Preparing the pocket and attaching it to the front fabric. Take the 2 pieces of the jacket pocket, the main fabric and the lining fabric. Align these 2 fabrics, right side facing right, as shown in the video, and pin it in place at the top. We'll be sewing them together now. Take the pinned fabric to your Usha Wonder Stitch Plus and align the top edge of the jacket pocket with the presser foot and ensure your pattern stitch selector is set to A for straight stitch and the stitch length dial is set to 2.5 and begin sewing. After reaching the end, lift the presser foot, cut the thread and remove the pin. For a better finish, cut off any excess threads. As you can see, we've stitched the top end of the jacket pocket. Now, open the pocket and fold it on the wrong side like shown in the video. Remember to leave a 1/4 inch margin at the sides all over. To set this fold in, and for the ease of sewing, we'll have to iron the jacket pocket. Iron it once overall before folding it backward again. Remember to leave in 1/4 inch space on all sides like indicated before. To make ironing over the corner easier, give notches to the fabric. Fold the pocket edge over the lining and iron over the fold after the slashing. Mind your hands while ironing to avoid any injuries. Continue folding and ironing over it. Once you are done, gently keep the jacket pocket aside and bring out front left fabric. Lay it right side up and from the top measure 10 inches and mark it. Place the iron jacket pocket under the 10 inches mark. Ensure that it is placed straight and not crooked and is centered from the left and right. We'll be sewing the edges and leaving the top unstitched. Align the edge of the jacket pocket with the presser foot and begin sewing. Remove the pins as you go, and when you reach the edge, use the pivot technique, where we turn the fabric without lifting the needle to ensure that it's one straight stitch throughout. Don't forget to do a round of reverse stitches at the end. This step will secure our straight stitches. Cut off the extra threads. As you can see, we've stitched the jacket pocket to the main fabric. Step 3. Joining the front and back pieces by sewing the shoulders. Now for the next step, bring out the other main front fabric. Place the back fabric over the 2 front fabrics, right side facing right, like shown in the video. Align the shoulders properly and pin them in place. Do this for both sides. We'll be sewing the shoulders now. Bring the pinned fabrics to your Usha Wonder Stitch Plus sewing machine and begin sewing. after aligning the shoulder with the edge of the presser foot. Slowly make your way to the end. Don't forget reverse stitches at the end. After you are done with one side, sew the other shoulder as well. Your final stitches should look like this. Step 4. Preparing the lining fabric. We'll now work on the lining fabric. Bring out the front lining pieces as well as the second front pieces that we cut from the main fabric. Lay them like shown in the video. Now, place the main fabric over the lining fabric, right side facing right, and pin them in place. Do the same for the other side. We'll now sew them together by doing a round of straight stitches at the edge. Align the pinned fabric to the edge of the presser foot and begin sewing. Once you reach the end, stop sewing and cut off any extra threads. Keep the piece aside and repeat the same process on the other side. Ensure that you do reverse stitches at the start and end every time you do straight stitches, as this will help secure our stitches. After you are done, cut off the extra threads. Your final stitches should look like this. Now, open the fold and iron over it, as this will help us set the fold and allow the stitches to settle in. Iron both the fabrics. Take the ironed fabrics and place them right side facing up. Now place the back lining piece over them, right side facing the right. Match both the shoulders and pin them in place. Let's sew over the pin sections. Remove the pins and align the shoulder with the presser foot and begin sewing. After you are done, do the same on the other side. Your final stitches should look like this. Step 5. Attaching the lining fabric to the main fabric. At the drawing board, after sewing the shoulders, keep the lining fabric aside and bring out the main fabric. Open it completely. Right side facing you, and place the lining fabric over it, right side facing the right side. We'll be sewing the armholes and the sides to attach the lining fabric to the main fabric. Once they are attached, we'll be sewing the side seam. However, before that, from the bottom, mark 3.5 inches on both sides, like shown in the video. We'll tell you the reason behind this later in the video. First, we'll work on attaching the lining and the main fabric. Now take your fabrics to your Usha Wonder Stitch Plus. We are going to sew the fabrics together from the extension of the neckline as indicated.
Start from the extension of the neckline.
Use the pivot technique at the edges and continue sewing.
Then move to the jacket opening and slowly make your way to the bottom.
Till you reach the 3.5 inch mark on the side and stop. Move to the other side and repeat the same process.
We will be sewing around 1 inch of the neckline and then continuing along the jacket opening as indicated.
Start from the neckline and slowly and steadily make your way down the jacket opening towards the bottom and then the sides. When you reach the 3.5 inch mark, stop. Now we move to the back. Fold the fabrics so that you can create the 3.5 inch mark on the back side as well. Do this on both the left and right sides.
After you are done, we'll be sewing from the marked point across the bottom line until the marked point on the opposite side.
We'll be using the pivot technique to ensure one straight stitch throughout. After you are done, cut off all the extra threads. Next on the list is sewing the armholes.
Match the fabric correctly and place it under the presser foot.
Only join the armholes and leave the opening from the end of the armhole to the 3.5 inches mark untouched. Do the same on the other side. Once you are done, we'll create notches in the circular areas of the fabric like the armhole and the bottom hem as shown in the video.
This ensures that the fabric sits well when worn.
Start at the armhole and then proceed to the bottom hem.
Also, slash the neckline and trim off the corner allowance as shown.
Do the same on the other side. Create notches on the armhole and the bottom hem.
Also, slash the neckline and trim off the corner allowance as shown. Step 6. Finishing the side seams.
Now we'll be working on the side seams. Turn the fabric inside out. we will be stitching the front side seam and the back side seam together. But make sure you work only with the main fabrics. Align the two fabrics under the presser foot and begin sewing. Start sewing from the slit towards the armhole. Once you come closer to the armholes, make sure they are aligned correctly and continue stitching over it. We now move on to the lining fabric in a continuous stitch. Join the front and back lining pieces together. Keep stitching till you reach about 5 inches from the slit. Lock the stitches and cut the thread. We will leave the lining as is and move on to stitching the main fabric till the end. Stitch on the main fabric only and then continue onto the lining fabric. Once done, cut the thread. As you can see, we have left the lining part of the side seam open. This will have to be hand hemmed later. We repeat the exact same process for sewing the other side seam. Your final stitches should look like this. We'll be ironing over all the folds. Start from the bottom and continue ironing the jacket opening. Keep adjusting the folds as you iron to ensure that the folds look sharp. Don't forget to iron over the armholes. This is an important step as this will give our fabric a superior finish. We have ironed the front folds, the bottom, armholes, and the side seam. Step 6. Preparing the collar and attaching it. For the final step, we'll be working on attaching the collar. Keep the fabric aside and bring out the collar pieces. You should have 2 pieces of the main fabric and 2 pieces of fusing fabric. Turn one of the collar pieces of the main fabric and place the fusing fabric over it like shown in the video. Then, place these 2 fabrics on the iron board and use your Usha iron to attach these 2 pieces by slowly pressing the fusing fabric onto the main fabric. Next, place the other fusing fabric over this material and once again press them together. After you are done, flip the collar piece so that the right side faces you and place the other main fabric piece over it, the right side facing the right side. We'll be sewing the sides and the top section. Take the collar piece to your Usha Wonder Stitch Plus and begin sewing. Ensure that you do one straight stitch across all 3 sides using the pivot technique. Cut off the extra threads when done. As you can see, we've stitched these 3 sides. Now, fold the seam allowance and iron over them like shown in the video. Do it one side at a time. After you are done, turn the collar inside out. And once again, iron over it.
We are done preparing our collar. Time to now attach it to our Nehru jacket.
Bring out our main fabric. Pin the unstitched section of the collar fabric to the neckline from the inside like shown in the video. Ensure that you pin it to both main and the lining fabric. Once you are done, bring the pinned pieces to your Usha machine and proceed with sewing. Remove the pins as you go and slowly go around the collar. After you are done sewing, we'll hand hem the unstitched side of the collar. Fold the seam allowance at the bottom inside and place the one at the top over it and fold it inwards like shown in the video. This is a tricky step. Be sure to pay close attention. Now we'll stitch over the fold. Keep folding the seam allowance as you go all across the collar. Your handiwork should look like this. We are almost done. For the finishing touches, finish hemming the side seams that we'd left for later. Join the lining fabrics together and sew over them. Do this on both sides. After finishing, cut off any excess threads and examine your handiwork. And we are done. You can embellish the Nehru jacket as per your preference. We've added a matching accessory and a bright colored pocket square. Doesn't it look absolutely stylish? A perfect essential for the wedding season. Let us know in the comments section what else you'd like to see, and don't forget to like this video and share it with your up and coming tailor friends.